Good Monday morning of the 26th week of the year. This is a really interesting week, I have to say, in the readings. It's all from the book of Job. And that has got to be one of the greatest pieces of literature, certainly in the biblical tradition. I rank it, Book of Job is probably ranked one of the greatest pieces of literature, period. Because it touches the very heart and soul of the human experience. It goes into the core of human experience, vis-a-vis the conflict, as it were, the tension between goodness and evil. It cuts to the chase. It is a tremendous drama of why human suffering exists, given one's fundamental belief in a providential deity. That's exactly the point. Job is a believing man. He's an innocent man. That's the whole key to this story, and yet he suffers horrifically. He loses his family, loses his wealth, loses his health. See? The way the story narrates, the guy's a genius who wrote this thing. Okay? This guy can write, okay? What he's got, he has Satan doing it, okay? The principle of evil, okay? Evil visits upon him. God allows Satan to torment and take away the good things of an innocent man, provoking blasphemy. Satan bets. It's actually a wager. It's a wager between Satan and God that Satan is betting that if you take away all the good things in life from somebody, they will curse God. And God says, okay, I'll take you on. And the truth is, as much as Job will struggle, he will never blaspheme. Some of the most eloquent, most powerful lines in the whole of the biblical tradition of all literature comes from Job. I'll read them to you at the time. See? It's like a crescendo in music. It's building all the time. And it isn't that he's not suffering. He is suffering. He's not in some kind of euphoric state. He's too dumb to know he's lost it all. He feels every bit of the pain of life. That's what makes him every man. Job is every man. He's you and me, with to the extreme. You see, there's no question he's an innocent man. There's no question. There is the temptation that comes from Genesis, that the horrors of human life, death, suffering, is due to the original sin, okay, as a punishment. It cannot be a punishment in Job, because by the very proclamation of God, he's innocent. And one of the great struggles we have in life is to recognize, why does a providential God allow for suffering and evil in the world? Okay? Why? Actually, I'll be honest with you, it's become the basis of my own course in the philosophy of religion. For years, I taught standard stuff. But in the last 15 years or so, not even, the last 10 or 12, I've gotten really more into the mindset of Job. And the reason for that is I've seen so many students who, by the time they're 20 years old, have lost their faith, and who have come to the university or come into their young adult lives as believers, but something in their lives causes them to disbelieve, not to become non-practicing, but to disbelieve. They don't go, I think of the kids in the neighborhood, I go to church twice a year whether I have to or not. It's not that. They don't believe anymore. And that's some of my closest friends, the people I love the most in this world. They become non-believers. Why? I would call it the divine silence. The silence of God. As one person put it to me, one of the closest friends I have in this world, a young woman, only in her 30s. She said that, and this goes back 13, 14 years. She said, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. Probably she never told me for what, but my guess, I think she suffered from some kind of depression. Never was relieved. So she disbelieved. Now, that's what Job doesn't do. He's a model of fidelity despite the darkness and the silence. Yeah. But I can't say I blame somebody for the for the loss of faith. I'm sure, and I have no doubt of the divine redemption of those who have lost their faith. He's not going to condemn them. That I have no question in my mind. The non-believer is not going to be condemned. I don't believe that at all. I believe they're following what their conscience tell them, and that the silence of God is for them a witness to his absence, the divine absence. And that's what Job is struggling with, and yet he perseveres. He's faithful. See, it's a marvelous text. I try to teach it. I try to show what I try to teach my kids in class is that even a world of grave and great suffering is a better world than a world of innocence. I don't want the innocence of Adam and Eve. I want the challenge of Good Friday. I believe in Good Friday. I don't believe in innocence. And I don't. Because I see what John Hicks, a philosopher, said, that it is the confliction of life that leads us to character building. We build ourselves. We are graced, as it were, by the things that we bear. We go deeper into our own humanity. What I show the kids in class, whatever it's worth, I show them the movie Pleasantville. And in the movie Pleasantville, you have to see it. It's almost corny, but it is a morality play. And it's a story about a movie about a movie, okay? And the movie is our television show called Pleasantville. It's a knockoff of Ozzie and Harriet, as it were, the 50s, okay? You're old like me, you could say, yeah, I remember this stuff. And it goes from black and white to color. And with the color, it becomes more realistic, okay? But it never becomes horrible. It is, I call it Pleasantville in color, is what we would call in philosophy a possible world, a possible kind of world. A world in which you have the richness of human experience, but you don't have horror. You don't have it. It ends happily ever after. So what I show is the contrast with that. I show 4 or 5 parts of Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, The Pacific, a descent into hell itself, the war in the Pacific, following the lives of 3 soldiers, 3 Marines, John Bassalone, Eugene Sledge, and Bob Leckie, and based on the autobiography of the 2 latter writers. It's a descent into hell. But when they come home, the 2 that survived and come home and write their autobiographies, I ask my kids in class, who's more human? The faces of the innocent in Pleasantville, or Sledge and Leckie when they come home? Who's more human? Look in their faces and ask me who's more human. It's definitely the guys that come out of the Pacific. They're more human. They are a redeemed humanity. It doesn't mean religiously redeemed. It means they weren't defeated. Life didn't defeat them. And they rose and recovered their humanity. I admire that. I guess because pastorally I've seen it. I have no regard for innocence. It's good for babies, but not for people. And that's the book of Job. Job is innocent in the sense he's sinless, but he acquires his depth through the things that he suffered, the losses that he suffers. And he never curses God. He never curses. He recognizes the transcendent goodness and beauty of God. He says, put my hand over my mouth. I'll read it to you text as the week goes along. Who am I to complain? You built the heavens. Who am I? Yeah, but I am real, and I think and believe and love, and I acknowledge my deity. I acknowledge you. See, I acknowledge you, and I worship you, even though I am miserable. That's him. That's the book of Job. So that's what we're going to do all week, okay? I hardly looked at the text just now, didn't I? We'll see it. We'll see it as we go along.